And welcome everyone to the semifinals of the MSL Code Platinum second season. We are here admiring this excellent piece of artwork on Star Station, and we're going to be enjoying an excellent game, or hopefully an excellent set of games, between these two players. In the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the green Zerg player, Balefire, making his way all the way to the semifinals. It's nothing to sneeze at, and so he's hoping to represent the Zerg race here, as his opponent down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map is a not Zerg. This is what we call the red Protoss player, EQBisu. So, of course, starting out, talking a little bit about the map. Star Station, it's been in the map pool for a little while now. It came out with Heart of the Swarm, and I do believe it's been in the map pool that entire time. Really important thing to notice is that there's a really small choke into the natural. So the natural is actually quite easy to take, but the thirds are ridiculously far from anything. So generally you see this taken third, and then people try to take this as a fourth. That can be a little bit painful though. So generally, because this is a very wide open map, it seems to favor the faster, more agile units that can get good engagements and good surrounds. So it's a little bit less likely that we'll see things like Colossi, but that does not mean that it will not happen. Just getting into the game, it looks like we're going to have a pool gas hatch. Hopefully a hatch coming out sometime soon. Is this going to be... I would be really surprised if this was in fact a ninja expansion. Instead, I think it was a scouting drone that got forgotten, hopefully. We do see a forge fast expand out of EQBisu. There we go. 25 minerals extra. 50, not bad. Pretty close on the timings there. You know, it's really interesting. Even if you queue up the building while your probe is, for instance, hanging out in here, when you have enough minerals, if it's not close enough, it'll take the money once it builds it. So you might have an extra 100 minerals or so by the time you get here. So props to having the probe here. It was a little bit late on the actual throwing down, but an extra few seconds is not usually critical in Platinum or so. It looks like we are going to get that expansion out here from Balefire. And I apologize, I have a gigantic frog in my throat. But it looks like we're going to see two lings out of Balefire, just enough to put on a little bit of light pressure, forcing that wall to be completed. And the cannon is going to go down and is just going to get a little bit of scouting information, as no scouting information has been given up till this point. Oh, he should be swapping those probes here in a moment. Yep. Oh my goodness. He's going to get in. Brilliant. However, the lings are not going to be able to get too much done. They do take out a single probe. That's actually a good call here. He's going to be able to sneak in. We do see both gas geysers down from EQBisu. So we'll be expecting to see some sort of tech move at some point here in the future. Generally with the Forge Fast Expand, you don't see any sort of aggression for at least another 3 or 4 minutes. Somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes, depending on what exact build is going to be happening, is when you'll usually see things. And usually with a fast spawning pool like this, you'd expect to see the Zerg player being more aggressive towards the start of the game, as this expansion hasn't been up. It's not been able to consume extra resources in the terms of needing to produce the drones. So usually you see them spending that money on other things, although it appears that Balefire has been banking things up a little bit. It's not entirely clear if that's on purpose at this point in time. And it looks like, wow, EQBisu does not like Zerglings in his probe line. Probably didn't need to pull off quite that many for a single half-killed Zergling, but it did work effectively, so you can't really blame him for that. We do see some upgrades going down. We do see a Zealot in the proper place for a wall. I mentioned this in some of the Code Silver and Code Gold games, where the wall's a really important thing. And notice this is exactly the size of one Zealot, and one Zealot can hold this wall for quite some time and acts as kind of a mini force field. So it's something to know. We do see additional drones coming out of Balefire. He's going to be catching up in the drone department, as he is now currently behind, and that's one of the dangers of expanding, first of all, later than your opponent. And as Zerg, if you're not producing drones constantly, aka you're producing any other sort of unit, Those were all not drones that were produced, so that can actually really impact your economy a lot more than you might think. We do see a robotics facility on the way, so we're probably going to see some Immortals, although War Prisms, not out of the question. We do see double evolution chambers out of Balefire, and with all 4 gases completely saturated, he should be able to dump lots of gas into these upgrades. As there's really not much other way to spend it at this point in time. There's no Roach Horn on the map. There's also no Hydra Den. There is a lair. Okay, here comes the infestation pit. And there's the Roach Horn. Okay. Otherwise, this is a little bit overkill. For gas geysers, just for double ups, is a little bit much if all you're going to be making is drones and Zerglings. However, that's not going to be the case, so we're doing good. Balefire is still a little bit behind in the worker count, and it's just because Chrono Boost and Probes can do really well together. Warp Gate has finished. You're going to see a whole bunch of gateways being thrown down, going to be added on, so this is 6, 7, okay, so 7 gate is getting close to an all-in. 8 gate is considered an all-in, at least with a timing attack. Generally, you can't produce off of 8 gates for very long. 7 gate with a robotics facility is probably roughly equivalent. So this is definitely going to be a 2-base attack. This is not going into a 3rd base anytime soon. He's going to start accumulating units, and they're going to be trying to go ahead and get some damage done here pretty quickly. And as he's on exactly even bases, I think this will actually go really well for EQBisu. Because remember, I've mentioned this before in other games and other things. Zerg needs to be a base ahead of their opponent if their opponent is not also a Zerg. And that ends up showing itself in the worker count, because you need to have that additional larva. And you need to have a higher food count than your higher tech opponents to be able to have equal kind of engagements, especially at the early and mid levels of the game. Roach Hydra is good, but in terms of food efficiency, it's not all that efficient, but it's cheap, so you can get a lot of it. But generally, you see games being pretty equal when Zerg players have 20 to 30 extra supply over their Protoss opponent, and right now they're even, so this should mean that this next engagement will go really well for Balefire. And when I say Balefire, I actually meant EQBisu, so I apologize for everyone who likes details to be accurate and stuff like that. Also, this is not quite an Immortal Sentry all-in. He's just going out, taking out the Watchtower. He does have a decent number of sentries. He's got 6 sentries, so he'll have probably a good 12 force fields or so by the time everything happens. Yeah, oh, even more than that, actually. But there's no Warp Prism here to follow this up, so reinforcements will not exist. And this it could actually do a lot of damage. I don't know if this will necessarily kill Balefire, although Balefire is now behind in food, and these swarm hosts, they're moving out onto the map. Ugh. Okay, the swarm hosts really need to be on creep to let the Locust actually be good, and they also need other things to help tank damage when their Locusts die. I don't even know if the Locust will make it there. See? Off of creep, they hardly do anything. Yeah. There are now going to be proxy pylons here, so this is going to start ramping up its ability to be aggressive. And Balefire, I'm wondering what you're wanting to do with all of these resources. You're banking up quite a bit. We do have some additional upgrades going down, only we are now going to be at 2-1 sometime soon. Ooh, the Nidus Worm. How did I miss the Nidus Network? It's going to be loading in. Does he see it? His opponent should see it. He totally can see it. He's just not watching the minimap as he is here. It looks like we might have a base race. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what we're going to see. Balefire, burrow. Nope, is he going to go back? He is going to go back and defend. Is there no Mothership Core? Units, there is no Mothership Core. So no Photon Overcharge. Some Zealots being warped in back home, and they are going for that. Oh no. For the base race. Zerglings in the main. Gonna get a lot of damage done. All the probes being taken out here. EQBisu needs to win this engagement. However, he's up on his opponent. A huge amount of supply. The Observer here allowing him to take out all of those Swarm Hosts. And Swarm Hosts are just so bad in base defense. Those Zerglings all, in my opinion, should have gone here. They should have come back. Oh, no. So sad. Another Nidus Worm. Excellent choice. There's just no other units here. There's a whole bunch of drones. He's going to try to take out EQBisu's base with drones. That makes me snuggle. That's hilarious. He really should move this Swarm Host, as in fact, these will do way more damage than drones. Going to be taking out some Zealots with some drones, building some Spine Crawlers on the creep. Super awkward and annoying. I do think this is going to be pretty much one-sided, though, once this base gets killed and the army returns. So, interesting game. I think in terms of how things went, it's pretty clear. Balefire, you started out with a decent opening. You didn't do any aggression with your early pooled build. And in your defense, it's very hard to do that with your opponent doing a fast expand. So instead, what you end up doing, I think what could have been more appropriate is taking an additional base while you knew you were safe. And then from there, not going straight up to Swarm Host tech, as Swarm Hosts really need additional units to support them to be any good. They're kind of like Broodlords. You need to have additional things, and technically there is an excellent Swarm Host build. It's Swarm Host Corruptor, but it's actually Swarm Host Corruptor Spinecrawler, and that can be quite good, but that relies a lot on creep spread and is generally very defensive and passive game style. So anyway, it looks like EQBisu is going to go up to a quick 1-0 lead in this this first semifinals for MSL Season 2 Code Platinum. So we'll be back in a minute, and we're going to be watching to see what happens next.